Hello again, this is Eric, and I'm continuing our conversation on executive functions. In today's video, I will break down the 6 major categories that I define as executive functions and give a little bit of elaboration on each one. In further videos, I will break them down into more detail so students and parents alike can use these to hopefully set up for themselves their executive functions for their children or students or whoever it may be for. In the previous videos, I gave my personal story of the impact when there is no executive functions and how that can shape a student's personal mindset towards academia. In the last video, I explained from personal experience the need for executive functions and basically the lack that there is in the education curriculum. So with today, let's break down what executive functions are. Executive functions, in my humble opinion, are a system of routines that help the student maximize their own personal scholastic potential. I know that sounds like a mouthful, but it really is that. It's a set of procedures that we do to make sure that we stay on top of everything and not forget about the little stuff. It doesn't mean it's just about time management. It means it can be about how to write a paper, how to format a paper, how to write neat, why to write neat, etc., etc., etc. So in my mind, I've broken down executive functions into 6 categories. And each one can be broken down in more and more detail, which I will go into later. So the first category is environment. The environment we work in is indicative of how well we're going to work. Now, I'll give you an extreme case just to kind of elicit the point. And this is one that I always tell the students when we first set this up. You can't study in an environment that has TV and people running through it and there's music playing. How's anybody going to try and read a book or study a math, whatever it may be? You get the idea. But maybe not even on the extreme scale, if you're sitting in an environment that is maybe not set up correctly, maybe there's distractions, even if they're not being used, can still be distractions. An example would be, I've had many students where they sit and do their work, there's an Xbox on there, or there's toys, or there's games. Those are all distractions. Environment is crucial to maximizing potential. That way, whenever you sit down to the proper environment, or the space, whatever it may be, it kind of sends an implicit message, it's time to work. The second category is tools of the trade. You got to have the right tools to do the work. And this can be from computers, pens and pencils, erasers, paper, desk, backpack, all those things that make it much easier to perform well when you don't have to go fishing around finding your tools that you need. This also means when you go to school. And it doesn't require a whole boatload of stuff, but you do need to have the basic tools of the trade always ready to go regardless where you're at. This is why having a proper backpack. I always tell the students too that get the things that you like from an aesthetic point of view second. First it has to be functional, and then try and get the functional to appease the aesthetic as well. That way it kind of connects the student with the stuff. So I have a lot of students that go between 2 parents' households. It's imperative that when they put everything in their backpack, the same materials reach the next household. Or both households are set up properly, that they have their necessary ingredients to do it. I can't tell you how many times I've had sessions with students and we couldn't finish something because there was no paper in the printer. The computer died because it wasn't charged. The computer wasn't there. You get the idea. Things like these. These are all the obstacles that really, by being on top of things, don't have to happen. So we have environment, tools of the trade. The third one is systems. Systems are a set of, I don't want to say routines, that'll be the next one, but systems are how do we do certain procedures. So a simple one would be, now this one's a little possibly slightly outdated because most work these days is being turned online, or at least a good half of it or so. But I've had many students to this day of all ages, particularly boys again, that they do the work and they forget to turn it in. either online or physically to their teachers. So one of the systems I had was when you finish your work, it goes in the opening sleeve of the notebook and it just stays there. That is your outgoing folder. Just like an outgoing box may be at a mailroom or at a company, something like that. Then everybody knows this has to be given. And then we get this system. Or another system could be when you take notes, it goes in a certain area of your folder, and it may be in chronological or it could be reverse chronological. These is another system. And there's many things. Another simple one would be making sure all your stuff at the end of a work session gets put away, just like in a restaurant. Okay? So we have environment, tools of the trade, systems, routines. And routines are when you sit down, this is a little bit more macroscopic than systems. Routines can be, a collection of systems, but routines are when you first sit down to do work, what's the first thing we do? Most students, and it does happen more with younger students, but even high school students, when they sit down and they're thinking about the work they have to do, maybe anxiety may flare up and they start attacking that job. Even though maybe that work isn't due for a couple days and there's a work that's due first. So usually the systems I always do with my students is, first thing is we always look at the grades. And most schools these days have grades online. That way they know exactly where they're at that moment in time. The next thing would be looking at what's coming down the pipeline more macroscopically. Projects, tests, essays, the big stuff. Then the next thing would be homework. What's due tomorrow? Then the days coming out from there. So those would be the routines. And you do those things first. Just like when you first get up in the morning, you make your bed, hopefully, you brush your teeth, you get the idea. That way nothing gets missed. And it's hard for students, and it's not necessarily an age thing, as I see adults with the same problem. It's really easy when you sit down, you just want to get that work done first, but it's important that you do the routine of looking what's coming down first, and then figuring out what's going to be the best procedure to get the stuff done, given the constraints of time and whatever else is going on in your life. So this leads to the next one, which is number 5, time management / scheduling. This is the one that's probably the nerve center of it all. By budgeting your time and breaking apart material, let's say there's a test coming on, and you break apart the material in 2 or 3 parts, depending on how much time you have till the test, then scheduling that using some kind of scheduling device like an agenda book, and just doing the little bits over time reduces anxiety and increases the quality of the learning. So scheduling is really the nerve center that controls all this stuff. And I have students that are very good at turning in homework, have good grades, but still are waiting till the end to do homework. They're waiting till like a day or 2 before a big assignment is due or to study for a test, and then they get nervous about it. Even though there's plenty of time earlier, it's a habit that they haven't thought about changing. So scheduling / time management can smooth it out across the days or the week. That way you're doing little bits of information over long periods of time, as opposed to a lot of information over a short period of time, like cramming. This does not lead for maximizing students' performance. And lastly, the 6th one is reflection. After you run these things for a while, like anything else, reflect on it. Is it working? Can I make adjustments? Should I swap some things here? Or should I do this? It's always important to reflect, is it working or not? Now, you may find in the beginning, though, that when you're first establishing some kind of routines or incorporating executive functions into your daily homework or into your daily work or your students' work, whatever it may be, that you may want to be kind of strict in the beginning. And what I'd recommend to any student or parent is develop the routine, develop the systems, get all this stuff for executive functions, and then stick with it for like at least 30 days. And don't deviate with it, and just stay with it and see how it works. Then from there, reflect upon it. Well, how can I do this differently? Should I do this? Should I adjust this? Should I get a different notebook? Should I do this? These are not rigid in stone. These are guidelines to kind of get you going, and that way you can see what's working or not. But initially, it should be that you're on top of everything. You know if you've missed something. You know when tests are coming. You know you should be studying for it, or your student, whatever it may be. And that way, you can start to see, hopefully, progress and be on top of it. Now, the irony is there may be a knee-jerk feeling to this that by being on top of it, students may feel, oh, I'm used to being stressed. And that becomes a habit as well, too. So a lot of this stuff will end up becoming behavioral, which I will discuss later on in a different video. But overall, let's just review once again. Executive functions, in my definition, break down into 6 categories: environment, tools of the trade, systems, routines, time management / scheduling, and reflection. I hope this video is some help to you, and I will be continuing this discussion in the future and breaking each category into more detail and how one can set up each one of these categories properly for maximizing their student and/or their success. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, enjoy the process. Have a great day.